fills up the
Liquid
space,
like that.
fills up the space. It doesn't have to be liquid though, because you can see how many bricks can fit in the back of a truck, yeah.
Okay.
But perimeter then is the distance around. So we'd have to add all these things up, find the distance around. The area is all of this space in between. If we want to lay carpet, plant grass, paint a wall, that's area, you're covering a space. And then if this were a box then, and we want to know how much it can contain, we want to know how much it can fill up that box, then we're talking about volume. When we're dealing with area, the answer comes out in what kind of units? Square units. Because area is always side times side, which would be, for instance, inch times inch. Anything times itself, remember, is squared. So that's inch squared, and it's called a square inch. If it was foot times foot, it would be a square foot. Yard times yard would be a square yard. Because you would, if you had the space and you covered it, you're going to cover each bit of it. If this is a foot there, there's a foot there, there's a foot there, there, and there. You're going to paint, if you're painting the wall, all of these squares. Each square is a foot. It's a foot up, a foot over, a foot down. See? All of that. If you're doing perimeter, all you're doing is laying a piece of something this way, and that way. So it's just the however many feet or inches altogether. But that area comes out in squares. You're painting squares. That's why it's a square foot. How many squares you're asking that are a foot on each side are contained in that space. And then when you're talking about volume and have, the sides and stuff too, if you were to cut off a piece there and pull this out there, you can see you'd have a little cube. That's why in volume, the measurement is always in cubic something, because you would have inch times inch. The length, the width, and the height. And that would be inch to the third power, or inch cubed, or a cubic something. That's why it's called that. Okay? Let's open your books to page 239. 239. Just to review. Number 1 says, Mark wants to put a frame around an 8-inch by 10-inch photograph. What are you using? Area, perimeter,
Perimeter.
Perimeter, going around it. The garden in Haley's yard is 26 meters long and half as wide. How many meters of fencing does she need to enclose the garden? What are you looking at?
Perimeter.
You're looking for what?
Perimeter.
Perimeter. You're going around that garden, right? And so that's perimeter. And you see they only gave you one number. They told you that it was 26 meters long and half as wide. How wide is it? 13, right? Meters. And so how many meters of fencing would she need? Figure that out. $78. Because and so it's always best to draw it.
How you get it?
Well, draw a garden. Make it 26 meters long and half as wide. Draw it.
Half is wide.
Mm-hmm. So if it's 26 meters long, how wide is it?
13.
13. So put those numbers there and tell me what's the distance around that figure.
78.
That's what we said.
Oh, okay.
Yep, 78. Just making sure you remember that they only gave you two numbers, but it's a four-sided figure. So you have to put the other four if you are wanting to find the distance around. If she wants to plant grass seed in that garden, how many square feet of grass seed, of garden does she need to cover? How many?
26. You gotta cover all of it, don't you?
Are you gonna figure out how much?
The,
She's
area.
laying okay, area, and what is area?
Side times side.
Okay, so do that. How many? I don't know. I'm waiting for all of you to tell me. How are you gonna figure it out?
They don't tell me.
They do tell you. They tell you that one side is 26 and the other side is half as long. How did you figure out the perimeter?
It's the same thing?
No, but it's the same numbers. What is one side? You told me you have to multiply side times side. What is
26.
And what's the other side?
26.
No, it's not.
13.
Okay.
So it's 39.
No. How do you find area? You just told me and you're not doing it. How do you find area? Somebody?
Inch by inch.
Say it again.
Multiply
what?
26
26 times 13. You told me side times
I thought
side,
that
right?
was wrong. That's why I wouldn't say it.
Side times side. So it's a 26 times the 13. And what'd you get?
398.
How much?
398.
398? 338? Any other answers? 26 times 13?
I got 438.
$338.
Where did I get this 3 from? Oh, I see what I did.
Now, hopefully that would have been a multiple choice question, and then you'd be close and just figure it again. Is that what you got?
2. I see what I did. That's right. 338 is what I got too.
Okay, good. 338 what? Meter squared, or square meters. So you're multiplying meter times meter, it will be meter squared or square meters, just like a square foot or a square yard. Any measurement can be squared or cubed. Okay, let's go on. Let's look at page 240. Number 9 says the illustration at the right shows a mirror. The top of the mirror is a half circle. The bottom is a rectangle. Rounded up to the nearest inch, how many inches of framing are required to go around the mirror? If we're going around the mirror, what are we looking for? Perimeter, area, or volume? Perimeter. If you're going around the outside edge. Now, we've talked about the perimeter of a square, a rectangle, a triangle, and a circle. We have not talked about the perimeter of a shape like this. How are you going to figure out a shape like this?
Half a circle.
Half a circle, so what would you have to do?
180.
Okay. Half the circle is part of it, right?
Yes, 180, right?
I will be 10 inches.
That's degrees.
We shovel.
That's what I was
How are you
thinking
going
in
to
my head,
figure
too.
out, how do you figure out the distance around a circle?
Diameter times pi.
Diameter times pi, right? And so that would be the circle. Then what would you have to do here?
Divided by 2.
Take half of it because it's half a circle. And that would be the measurement of the top. And then how would you get the rest of that? How would you get the rest of that figure? If you want to put a trim around that, How would you do it? There goes the eraser again.
Oh.
How would you figure it out if you want to put trim around that mirror? Just think of it logically. How would you do it? Look at the picture. Do you happen to know where some erasers might be?
What's the diameter? 180 inches.
If you were trying to put something around there, don't try to think math, just think, how would you figure it out? What do you need to know to figure out how much to put around that shape?
We need to know what the perimeter is.
You're still using math.
Lord Jesus, help us.
I would add all of the
How do you find the perimeter?
sides. After getting
What'd
the
you
answer
say?
from
You
20.
add all these up, is what you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are these dimensions? 30 and 20. So from here to there is 30. From here to here is 20 inches. What else would you have to add? It's another 30 here, right? Because they told you it's a rectangle, so we know that this is all, this and this are the same, and this would be the same, right? So that's 30, okay. So we know so far, like you said, we have 80 inches, right?